So now we are going to get our square cake draped in fondant, and that's a bit an intriguing subject for most of them, how we are going to do. Similar method of how you did for your round cake, we could just go around and then do the panel method as well. Just have the disc cut using the top board for the square ganache cake, and then allow it to rest for some time so it just doesn't get stretchy. And then the other way is to have panels on all four sides, but then all the four corners are going to have the seam. You could also do another way where you have an entire strip which is like 4 times. You just measure the size of one side and then have a 4 times bigger strip, and then you could just go around wrapping the entire thing like you did for your round cake, and that is also quite fine. But paneling method comes in essential only when the cake is pretty tall. So I thought that paneling method technique you've already done in the round cake. So we could just do the traditional draping because the height is not too much. And if you're going to do it in the traditional method, now obviously there are going to be pleats coming over, and we could just see how we could just get rid of them and also go on and then get the sharp edges finished on all corners and then on the top as well. And this has been ganached, and you know how you could get the sharp edges on the ganache cake. And for this particular lesson, you just finish ganashing and show the step-by-step stages onto the support group. And once you're here at this stage, after finishing it, we will move on to the draping lesson, and we are also going to do airbrushing on the cake as an additional technique that you will learn along with. I'm just going to set this aside. So the ganache cake, after it's been ganached, you put it in the fridge for about 4 hours to let the ganache completely set. These are the minimum timings. And then take it out of the fridge and then keep it directly under AC for another 4 hours and let the condensation completely go away. And once you have the cake dried out on the outside fully and all the condensation is gone, then you have to brush the top of the entire surface of the ganache like how I've done now. It looks shiny because water has been brushed and kept ready. So I could just drape, and if the water is not there, then the fondant will not stick and it's just going to blow out and come away from the ganache surface. So this is the fondant. I've just kneaded it out just before I started off here, and I'm just going to start rolling. Just get some corn flour on the mat. And then the rolling pin with a handle. Then keep just sheeting around, just keep moving so it has enough corn flour and is not sticking to the mat. So I'm just going to get the measurement. So it's about 3.5 here. So obviously the other side will be 3.5. So we have a 7 there, right? And these are in inches I'm doing, and then there is another 7 on the top. So we have a 14. So we would need about 14. So I'm just going to see whether I have 14 all around. If there is any shortage, then I will just roll it out. So that's quite good for a 14 all around. Let me just extend up some part of that. I'm just going to lift this. You could also do that, or the other way is to use a 1 feet rolling pin. So you could lift it up, which means it is a bit sticky here. You just lift it up like that and then place it on the cake. Or the other way is to roll it up on the rolling pin and then unroll it on the cake from the entire stretch. What I'm going to do, I just feel this is a bit thick. So having a very thick sheet of fondant to go on the complete top and then the sides, that will be too heavy for the cake to take that much of weight. So it's important to check what is the thickness on the inside. But then as we rolled it using the bigger rolling pin, it didn't move because it was already sticky. But now that we have the corn flour dusted on the underside of the fondant, now the fondant will move. You don't have to make it too thin, especially if you're going to drape for the first time or the first few times. So this thickness seems quite fine. Obviously the edge will be like too thick, but the inside is a little thinner than what is here. But then on the edge you just arrive at somewhere close to this. So to make it easier for you guys to follow, I'm just going to roll this. And like I said, if you're rolling, you just need to be sure you're adding corn flour so the underside is not sticking over to the top. So when you're unrolling, it just makes it easier for you to put it on the cake. I'm just going to get the cake. So I'm just going to lift this and then start unrolling. So here at this point, I'm just going to check, just show you guys how you would do. So you can just check. You just need only whatever is enough on that side. Align that fondant to the bottom. Then just go all the way up there. Then you have it covered on that side as well. So the first thing when you're working on a square cake like that is to get the top sealed in first. You just have this corners stuck first. Just open up and then make sure you're sticking the corners first. So if they are going to tear, just don't worry, pinch them together and they could be sealed, and with the fondant smoother, it will just be fine. It just needs to stick to the cake, and once it is sticking, you can just pinch them together and they'll just be fine. So once all the 4 corners are set, and now start working the sides. Just keep opening up the pleats with the help of one hand. Open the pleat out. Make sure the corner is also intact. And just push it down so you don't have the pleat. Just also make sure the corner is also stuck. So don't worry about the roundedness of the fondant and little crack here at the edge. They will all come together. So just open up. One hand will just help remove the pleats and the other one will just help the fondant stick onto the surface. Just open where the pleats are. Just stick them straight without the pleat. When you see it is kind of cracking or breaking, the one thing that you need to avoid is to stretch it down. Don't put the pressure to the bottom because it is already cracking. So just put your fingers together and try to stick them on the sides. Don't put your pressure downwards, just stick them together. So the first goal is to get the sides and the corners without the pleats. And don't worry about the roundedness at this stage. Just make sure there are no opening and all of it is just sealed well. I'm just going to cut through the excess at the bottom. You can just leave a little bit. We can go a bit more intricate after we've just smoothened out. So just this excess, you don't want like a lot of it to stay there on the cake. The next step, we'll start using the fondant smoothener. I'm just going to dust some corn flour all over. Then we start using two fondant smootheners, first on the top and then on the sides. In case you have some gaps, you just need to keep pushing it down. So once the top and the sides are done, and then we could just start working on the sharp edges. So first let me focus on all the four sides on the top, for which I'm just going to hold this smoothener on one side, touching the entire sides here, and this one just on the top. Don't lift them away from the cake's surface, just hold it here, then just go gently press. So gently from here, you can see little pressure all the way from here. You don't have to just keep working only on that place, otherwise then that corner alone will start giving a dent. If you're going to have air bubbles, you can just pop it out as well. Just seeing if there's an air bubble caught up. So I just want to sharpen one side fully. So the point is, this is the pinching action, which is like you're pinching through both the smoothers. So the pressure comes from this side as well, and the pressure goes all the way from this side as well. And then the iron. So once you've pinched it throughout, and then just iron. So So you could see this one we have to keep also working, but just as the first stage you can see the difference of how this side is and then how the side is, which is just the untouched side. And then once we have this part done, we just do that to all the three sides before moving on to the corners. Just get it ironed as well. Ironing is holding both the smoothness and then this has to touch the surface of the other smoothner like that, and then keep moving both together at the same time and see if you have like an even line forming for the sharp edge. And in case when you're pinching, which is depending on the thickness of the fondant you're working on, you get something like this, which is the lip. For reference, I just would like to call it. These X's as you pinch, if they just come on the top like that, then you could just leave them there. So once it completely dries, we can use a craft knife and then cut it out so it will further be very sharp. So you don't have to keep creating such a lip formation. If you're able to get it sharp without it, it's quite fine. And in case you have it, that is no problem as well. Just allow it to be there. Don't try to use a smoother to just round it out. Just allow it there and you could just cut it out. So the four sides on the top are done, and then I'm just going to work on the corner here. So what I'm going to do, use the two smoothners, okay, and then go to the edge and then just press it out. See if there is a bit of excess that you could just cut through like so. You could just remove that as well, which is like putting the pressure using the smoother itself. So you could see that there is a little bit of excess that is stuck there, right? I'm just going to push this also on the sides to reach all the way up to the smoother. And just use this craft knife to get rid of it. Here you have to be a little careful because there is ganache inside, and if you form a opening, then the ganache would also just start oozing out. So we will be left with this one point which is not sharp after all this, and that we will come to the end. For right now, You see the difference? But here this needs to move a bit. Here it's just rounded as well. This on the top it needs to move, but this part is quite sharp. We just do that, just like pushing against both the smoothness, just with a bit of pinching action. So if it doesn't have excess that you need to cut out, but it just joins there by itself, and that itself gives a sharp edge, that's quite good as well. You don't have to really go use the craft knife to cut an excess. Just hold it here, and with this keep pushing. I'm just going to cut through this lip. So we have the sides in the corners done. Now we just start working on this part. Usually it is a little difficult to get a tool like the smoothner to just come, because all the four sides, I mean the three, this part and this part should come together to make it pretty pointy. So usually I prefer using the fingers, and all of this you need to just do when the fondant is still soft. You can't be letting the cake and the draped fondant waiting for quite long before, because it has to be soft. If you're going to wait, then the fondant will dry out and it won't move. Okay, so if you could just see the difference, but obviously you can't make dents also. So when you're using the fingers for this particular sharp corner, just make sure you're not softening up or making other dents because you're using the finger. Okay, so you can see this part getting pointy, rather than this one which is untouched, is still kind of rounded there. So see, this part is like quite sharp because of the fingers that I've used to make it sharp on this, because all the four sides are meeting there, right? And now you can see the difference where this part is like kind of rounded, and we just need to start working, just showing how different it is to get the fingers, do the sharp pointy corner there, and then the rounded edge which we have not even touched. And now I'm just going to work on that as well. Now after that I'm just going to work on the corners. And just see, by holding the smoother here, you find the gap between that corner and the smoother. Then you still have the space to make it straight. So holding it here with good amount of pressure, just let this side of the smoother go and touch, and in that way if you're going to get the excess, that you could just cut it out using the smoother itself. But yeah, you have to be a little cautious there, maybe because you don't want the ganache to start oozing out. Hold and see, you find a gap there, right? So now just push it. Now if it cuts out through the smoother itself, it's good. I'm just going to check if it is fine or if there is anywhere that I need to work. This excess I could just cut it out. I'm just giving one last press down. So you don't have to have like any waves or curves. It just needs to be like a block. So I'm just pressing it from both sides. Okay, so I think we just finished covering the square cake. We could just continue working a bit more to make it even more perfect, spending a little more time here to just do the top iron one more time. But just in case if it just got rounded because of us working all over. It's just the pinching, quick pinching like the last step. Then just running both the smoothness together with the iron motion. So I think this looks good now. So we can have the sharp edges of the fondant cake, and that is the fruit of labor. It is intense, but then we just get to do that, and obviously we feel the skill that is acquired after having made this. And we're just not going to stop this cake here with this white draped sharp edges. We're just going to get back and make some beautiful painting on top of this, and that I'm going to teach you how to use airbrush with different templates, and so catch you in that lesson.